Hi, my name is Howard Peck and I'm with Ultramark Display Company, and we are the display company that designed and produced your PRISMACOLor tower unit, as well as the new retrofit parts and pieces that will go onto this tower unit. In addition to the written instruction sheet, which I have right here, we thought it might be a good idea to supplement that with a visual aid to help you with the final installation in the field. So before we get into the actual assembly, I think it is important to lay these parts and pieces out, take them out of the box and lay them out in an orderly fashion so that you can ensure that you have all the components you'll need, and it will be easier for you to do this final assembly. So you will lay all the different components out on the floor in an orderly fashion, just to make sure that you have all the components, and you also that also will make that assembly process go a little bit smoother. Right here we have what we're calling a wing assembly A, and also note that on this assembly there are little tabs on the bottom of these particular wings. Here we have two B wings, two C wings, two short D wings, and two E wings. These are all lettered a little bit differently because all of these components are, of course, a little bit different. So it's important to pay close attention to the order that you put these into the unit. Over here we have two filler strips. We have two wedge spacers for the test pads, two test pads, four black clips. We have the wing assembly graphics here. These are in sets, side 1 set through side 4. All the UPCs are also in sets, and again, they are polybagged so that they are done in steps or a particular order. Here you have a side 1, in which case there should be a little bundle of short UPCs and a bundle of long UPCs. So you have a set 1 through a set 4, or a side 4. And then over here there are two 10-cell assembly mods. That really completes the parts that you will need for the final assembly process. Okay, so we have just laid out all the parts and pieces, and we're ready to do our final assembly in the field. But before we get to that point, we have to prep the existing tower unit. By prep, what I mean is that we have to remove some parts and pieces before we can start the actual assembly of the retrofit mod. The first thing we need to do is remove the header, like so. And I'm just going to set this down here on the ground. So that's the first part of what you want to do. Now, it's very important that you orient this tower display so that the illustration section is facing you. That will orient this so that the parts and pieces that you need to remove are easily identifiable. The next section that we are going to remove are the two kit sections to the left and right of this illustration section. So here I am. These are in with little pins, and very simply you just remove the pins on these units and this kit section will come out. Now in some cases there may be a little bit of tape behind this unit, and it's okay, just give it a little bit of force when you're pulling on it and that tape will easily remove itself. So that kit section is gone, and I'm going to come over here and I'm going to take out the other section. Again, there's a little bit of tape behind here. Don't worry about that. You may just have to give it a little bit of force and play around with it. But there you have it. This is now removed. So both of the kit sections are removed at this point. The next thing we're going to do is start removing all of these top graphics. Very easily done. They just slide out of these channels. I'm just going to go around the unit and do that. Okay, all of the top graphics are out. Now what we're going to do is remove all the test pads that you see right here. They're also slid into this channel, so you can put a little force on the top of this with one hand and then push it out with the other hand, and that will release them. And we'll do the same on all four sides. Now, two of these test pads you will want to hang on to and keep for the final assembly, as you'll need these when we put the rest of the retrofit kit together. Okay, so that's done. The last thing, well, not the last thing, but the second to last thing, is we're going to get rid of the bottom graphics. Again, this is a really quick, it's a really quick process because these are all in channels, and this will go very quickly. Okay, all of the long graphics are out of the unit. Because the order of the product is changing, all of the individual UPCs will need to be removed, with one exception. The UPCs in this illustration section stay put. They do not change out. Everything else you see here will be removed. And again, it's very simple. Now, you just give it a little push on one end, pull from the other end. Again, you've done this a million times, I'm sure, and they will come out very simply. Do that for all four sides of the unit, and then we're ready to move on to the next step. I think that concludes this segment. And make sure one other thing, in addition to those test pads, you're going to want to make sure that this header piece you hang on to, because you'll need this when you get to the last step of the assembly process. So the header and two of the test pads hang on to. That concludes this segment, and then we'll move on to the next step. So at this stage, we're now on step 2. As you can see, this is the illustration section. It's in place. And on both sides of that illustration section, we now have a void area. We're going to fill that void area with a 10-cell mod. It's important to note that this has to be inserted properly so that the wide section down here is always at the bottom, with the thinner wall at the top. When you go to insert this, it's a very simple process. There are tabs on the back of this mod, and there are slots in the void area on the sides. It's simply a snap fit, and I'm going to grab this section of the tower for leverage, hold on to this unit, snap it into place. When you hear it, you'll know that it's locked and engaged. I come around this side and I do the same thing. It's now set into the void area, and I have to now fill this top section. I'm going to do that with a filler strip, which is simply a piece of plastic with 2 holes in the corners. And I have 2 black clips. I'm going to simply take one clip and pop it through one hole and do the same thing on the other hole. And then I'm ready to just line it up with the holes on the actual tower. And when I do that, it's simply a matter of pushing it in place. Everything is set with this side of the unit. Then I'm going to move on to the next side. I'm going to grab another 10-cell mod. I'm going to make sure that the thicker piece is down at the bottom. I'm going to turn around the unit, come to this void area, and place the unit here, line it up with the slot, pop in one side, pop in the other side. I'm going to grab another filler strip. Here's my filler strip for the other side. Again, insert the clips into the holes first. That'll make it a little bit easier to line it up with the holes on the tower. And then pop it into place. Step 2 is now complete. So now we are on step 3. As you can see, the tower is always oriented, again, with the illustration section toward the front. Now it's time to insert the actual wing assemblies. We're going to start with the wing assembly A, and again, as I mentioned earlier, this has a tab on the bottom. When you insert this, you'll be inserting it into this channel, and this little lead-in will fit right into this front channel. So I'm going to lead it in there, I'm going to attach it on this side, and then I'm going to slide it down the channel. This will serve as the stopper as we get down to the bottom of the channel. So my A mod, wing assembly I should say, is in. Now I use a B wing assembly. B is next. Again, it's important to insert these with the letter facing you. Here are the lead-ins right here. We put the first one in, we put the second one in, slide this one down the channel. And it should touch off right there. Then we need a C wing assembly right here. And again, there's my lead-in. There's the front part of the channel. I'm going to engage that first. Engage the second one. Oops, I missed that. Engage the second one. Slide it in. So this portion is complete. Now what we're going to do is we need to do the same thing to the back side of this tower. It's very important to note that we're going to move from the front right to the back because the others are a little bit different. So I'm going to turn this. This is the front of the unit, not this side. The very back of the unit, I'm going to do the same thing. I got my A. I've got a B. And lastly, I have a C. And then I'm going to turn and rotate this unit again so that the illustration marker section is facing me. And that's the end of this step. Okay, so we're now on step 4. And again, illustration section is facing us. Now we're going to do the other two corners. We're going to start with A mod again. I'm just going to rotate this slightly, and I'm going to work on the corner just to the right of the illustration section. So there's my A mod with my tab on the bottom. There's my lead-in into the channel, into the other channel, and there we have it. So this one goes down. Here's my A wing assembly. And then I'm going to move on to my D assembly. My D mod, I should say. I'm sorry. There's my D. And again, this should be placed into the channel with the unit so that the letter is facing you. Okay, I slide that into place. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab one of those test pad holders that we saved earlier when we took it off the existing tower unit. Here it is. Now, you may or may not have a test pad that you can use. If not, we have some replacement test pads in the kit for you. Nonetheless, this will also slide back into the channel. You want to make sure that you slide it in, as you can see the profile here, with the flat portion of the test pad at the bottom. Slide that into place. Now we also have a wedge filler, which is this piece right here. It's simply a spacer or a filler piece, and that also will slide into position, and it will slide right on top of the test pad holder. There we go. And then lastly, I'm going to grab a wing assembly E to finish off this column. Okay, so this section is complete. So now we only have one more corner left. Obviously, I'm going to rotate this around to the last column over here, and I'm going to do the same thing. I start with A. And then I go to my mod assembly D. And again, make sure that the letters are facing you, and that would denote the bottom of that assembly. And then I'm going to go to my test pad. Obviously, this is the top. Then I have the wedge filler again, which is this piece right here. And to finish off that unit, or that corner, we have our E wing assembly. And this corner is done, and that completes this step. I'm going to rotate this to the front again with my illustration section here, and we'll be ready for the next step. Here we are on step 5, and the structure is 90% complete. This step will require us to put in the long graphics that go into these corner wing assemblies. The long graphics are all labeled. They're in sets. This one that I'm holding up here reads Side 1 Wing Assembly Graphics. That is going to go into the section that is to the very left of the illustration section. So I'm going to take these out. That's really the hardest part of this. And I'm going to start with 3B. Now, when I say 3B, what I mean by that is there are code numbers on the bottom of all the graphics. They're very, very tiny and very hard to read, but in the very left-hand corner, all the way to the right, you will see the number 3 and the letter B, which designates bottom. So 3 bottom. And this simply slides in to the back channel. So you lead this into the back channel of the wing assembly and slide this all the way down to the bottom. And we're done with that. And then we're going to move on to the other part in that kit, and that is 3T. That designates top. It leads into the back of the channel. Slide that in place, and we're done with that corner. Now that we've inserted the front graphics into this wing assembly, we're going to finish off the graphics on the wing assembly by attaching the graphics along the side here. So this is my code number 3BB. I'm going to insert that one first. And I'm going to bring that one all the way down to the bottom. Now, you'll note that at the joints here in the mod, occasionally it may get hung up or stuck. That's simply a matter of sometimes there might be a little burr of plastic that's inside here. You may have to clean that out. It's a minor thing, but if you get stuck, you just have to play with it a little bit. Then we finished off the side with our last graphic strip for this column, which is 3BT. And as you can see, this just hit a little bit of a snag here, and I'm just lining up these mods a little bit closer together to get over that joint. Okay, so as we've noted, side 2 is complete, the graphics are already inserted, and we've rotated it to the left, so we are now working on side 3. I'm going to start with the bottom graphic that is coded as 1B in the left-hand corner. And I'm going to use the back channels of the wing assembly and start sliding this into position. Now, you're going to hit a little threshold here where the joint is, and you can see I just squeeze that together a little bit so that it will then free that up to slide that into position. The next graphic we're going to insert is coded 1T. That goes into the top. And that is complete. I'm going to then finish off the side of this wing assembly right here, and I'm going to start with the long blue strip, which is coded 1BB. Get over here into my channels. And again, you might hit a little threshold there, squeeze those mods together a little bit, and continue sliding it down. Then to finish off the side of this mod is my last blue graphic, which is 1BT. There's the little threshold. I'm going to give that a little squeeze, and we're all set. This is completed, this particular side. Now, I have finished this and I rotate it again to the left. So we have finished up side 3. All the graphics have been inserted into this wing assembly, and we've already rotated it so that we are now working on the very last column, which is side 4. This graphic is designated as 2B. We're going to insert that one in first. It will go in, right below the test pad down here. Drop that into position. And then we move on to 2T. That will go in right above the test pad. Then we're going to fill out the sides. We're going to start with our long strip, which is coded 2BB. And that's going to be inserted right to the side, of course, of the test pad. And then we're going to finish that off with the top, which is 2BT. And we're done. And then we're going to rotate this. Actually, we're not going to rotate it. It's already come full circle. This is our illustration section. That's where we want it to be because the next step is inserting all the UPCs. And we want it to be in this orientation. Okay, so now we are ready to insert all of our UPCs. And it's a relatively simple process. The main thing to remember is the illustration section should be facing us. That is going to be side 1. So the first packet we're going to use is labeled side 1 UPC strip set. We're going to start with the long UPCs, and the long UPCs are going to fit into these channels right here where I'm pointing. So in order from first to last, we're going to pull out the first UPC strip, which is labeled 3-35. I'm going to take that one and I'm going to put it right in between these locators and take my finger and simply slide it across, making sure that I'm engaging into the channels all the way across. So there's my 335, and then my next strip is going to be 3-36. And trust me, don't get nervous, I'm not going to do the entire set. I'm just going to put these first two in for you, and they are positioned correctly right now. So it's 335, 336, and then we're going to move in numerical order so that we are going to end up with 341 at this location down here. We're skipping over the illustration section because these UPCs remain intact. And then we end up down here at 350. That will be the last coded number. And then, when that is complete, we're going to move on to the short UPC strips, which I have right here. The first one I'm going to pull out in order is going to be 3-35S. The S stands for short. We're very clever around here, so we're going to take this little short guy, we're going to insert it right into the top of that section right there, and of course, in numerical order, the next strip is going to be 3-36. That goes into the next section here, and then this will be 3-41S, all the way down to 3-50S. So that will complete the UPC setup for side 1. Okay, so our side 1 UPCs, we already talked about those. You're going to fill up that entire section in numerical order. Then we're going to rotate the unit again to the left. And we're going to start again with our next packet, which is going to be labeled side 2 UPC strip set. And we're going to start again with the long graphics first. Now, I'm not going to insert these, but it's suffice to say that these are also in order. So they start with code number 4-51, and they go all the way down to 4-68. So 4-51 at the top, all the way down to 4-68 at the bottom. That will complete the long UPCs. And then for the short UPCs, we have the same situation. You're going to start with 4-51S being the short one, and that'll start at the top, and then you will complete that all the way down to the bottom, all the way to 4-68S. And then once you do that, this section will be complete, and then you're going to rotate that for the next side. Okay, so we've completed our insertion, or you should have completed the insertion of all the UPCs on side 2, so we're going to rotate that to side 3. Side 3, we're going to pull out the packet that says side 3 UPC strip set. Now, one thing to note, there should be a little memo in that packet. One of the long UPCs has a wrong code number on it. It's no big deal whatsoever. The code number on the strip that reads 216 really should read 116. Just don't want that to confuse you when you get to that portion of the assembly process. So we are going to start again with the long UPCs on side 3. And just as we've done on all the other sides, we start in numerical order. With the long UPCs, we're going to start with code number 1-1 at the top. We'll insert these all the way down, skipping over the kit section, and we're going to end up at 1-16 at the bottom. When that is complete, we then move on to the short UPCs. Same process. The short UPCs, we're going to start with the first short UPC, which is coded as 1S. That will go in first, and we'll go all the way down here, skipping over this little section right here, all the way down to 116S. And then this side 3 will be complete with that portion of it. Okay, so you've finished now side 3 and inserting all those UPCs. We're going to rotate that again to the left. This will be the last side that we do. This is going to be side 4. We pull out the last bundle here, our kit, which is labeled side 4 UPC strip set. We start again with the long graphic. And these will go in the order, numerical order, of 2-17 at the top. And then we're going to insert those all the way down to the bottom, ending with, down here, 2-34. When that's done, just like we did before with all of the others, we insert the small UPCs, and in numerical order it will start with 2-17S and go all the way down to the bottom, end at 2-34S. And then that completes all the steps required for the UPC graphics. Okay, well, I have good news for you. This is the very last step. We have everything set up, all the assembly, all the graphics are in place. The only thing we really have to do now is take that header that we set aside and place it on top of the unit. It's very important, however, when you do that, to marry up the colors. So this is brush fine that you're seeing here in green. We're going to match that up with the green graphics on this wing graphic. So that will go in front, and the purple, the chisel fine, will go to the side of that. And basically it's just dropping it into place. So I put it up here, I set it up there, and I'm going to go around the back to make sure it's fully seated, which it is. So this now represents the fully finished unit. As you can see, it'll hold a lot more product for you, which means you can sell a lot more product. I hope you're happy and satisfied with the final display. If you do encounter any assembly issues or you have any further questions, our number's on the instruction sheet. By all means, give us a call, and one of our customer service people will guide you through it. But I do hope you're happy with it, and again, call us with any questions. Good luck with the display.